We had talked earlier in the work session, the council had expressed that they had some interest in having our representatives come down and give us an update on not only things that affect the cities, like our administrative hearing officer program we adopted that the state legislature passed. I think we've got that issue resolved now, but other things, I mean, just this year we had some new law changes that affected our beer board, requiring them to be American citizens. And every year these guys make changes that affect us directly, and I thought, and as y'all did, it'd be a good idea to have them come, give us an update, and see what's going on at the state. So, let you all have the floor.
I'll let the representative go.
This is gonna be easier than that Saturday.
I've seen you all before. That's when we know we're walking into a sandstorm. It's like in Nashville when they say, "Oh, this is an easy thing to pass."
Yeah.
No, I mean, we appreciate the opportunity to come, and I think y'all have an issue that y'all want to talk about too. Is that right?
I don't think so at this point.
Okay,
We've got
okay.
Yeah, we got it.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, we're with the governor today. He's doing he started his budget hearings. I don't think you'll see it nearly as bad as what it has been in the past. But as he says, and I think his quote was today, is even though we're ahead of revenue projections, that there's still different things that have to be done, mandates from Teen Care and such. And then, as he said today, a lot of money's going into infrastructure on state buildings to do repairs and stuff on those that haven't been done. I mean, I think, the governor, from your all's perspective, obviously the governor's looking at, the gas tax. And I think everybody's aware of him looking at that. We can talk about that more in detail, but I think he's looking at that. I think he's done with Insure Tennessee. That's not going to happen this year, I don't believe. As far as anything after that, he hasn't really come out and said exactly. We can't talk about it, but there's big news tomorrow dealing with higher education that he's going to talk about, which we think will empower higher education in the state of Tennessee and actually do a nice modernization of where we need to go in higher education. But with that, I'll let Paul fill in.
Well, of course, the governor and as well as Senator Tracy, who's chairman of the transportation, has been traveling throughout the state and basically giving the reason why that we need an increase in gas tax. And basically it's $6 billion in projects that the state is currently behind on. And so what they really like to see is to raise that revenue, the state revenue, by about $400 million annually, which would help to bring a lot of those projects to fruition. I know that Representative Sexton and I did a news release just a week or so ago regarding Peavine Road. TDOT's finally done that. So what the governor will tell you is that it's basically 12 years process now from the time that a road project is established until the completion date. And there's 4 phases that they go through on that. It's environmental, it's right-of-ways, it's design, and then it's construction. And so basically it takes 12 years. Peavine Road, for example, since it's a road here in your community, you see that a long-eared Indiana bat held the project up by about 4 more months as far as the let date for the bid. So,
we've learned a lot about bats.
Yeah. So, and Mayor, I apologize. I don't mean to have my back to you.
You're fine.
Talking,
You're fine.
So we realize that 60% of the east-west truck traffic of the United States passes through the state of Tennessee, and of course trucks provide a lot of wear and tear on our interstate systems, and of course. Hello, Mayor. There you. They provide a lot of wear and tear on our interstate systems, and of course, we have Representative Sexton and I actually have a proposal that would bring in $200 million of additional revenue every year for the state of Tennessee that you, as the average Tennessee citizen, unless you're in the trucking business, would never see. And so it would be a quarterly reporting process that takes place. The administration cost annually to the state of Tennessee is less than $150,000 a year. So to bring in that type of revenue, it makes a huge difference. So I think that the governor is looking at many different packages, but he said today he doesn't know if it'll be this year or next year, and he brought it into perspective. He said every governor since Ned Ray McWhorter and Lamar Alexander, when the last time the gas tax was raised, gas and diesel tax was raised, a few things have happened. Our big trucks have gotten more fuel efficient as well as our cars, so the amount of tax dollars that we bring in for that has decreased, although the volume of vehicles have increased, but still the revenue has not kept pace with that. But he said when a governor comes in, their first term, they look at the cost of what infrastructure that they need for the state of Tennessee, whether that be from Mountain City to Memphis or from Clarksville to Chattanooga. They look at that and they realize that, gosh, something needs to be done. So their first term, they're looking at getting reelected, for their second term, and they're going to do something in their second term. Then all of a sudden they realize, gosh, it's going to be a mountain to climb to try to get additional tax increase. And besides, they're not going to name any of these roads after me because they're going to be 12 years after I'm gone, so why should we even do that? So, but that's something that's definitely been swirling around a lot this summer as far as what we're doing. Tennessee Department of Corrections, Bledsoe County. I know we have a lot of workers out of Cumberland County that go to work at Bledsoe. We've had some issues there with the way the commissioner of Department of Correction has redone the work schedule, and so there's been a study that's been completed this summer, and I believe the commissioner is going to come back in January to the legislature and give a revised plan. But we've lost a lot of good employees at Bledsoe County, Morgan County, as well as other state prisons throughout the state. And what that does is that puts a burden on your local county jail, because if the state has to close units down like they have in West Tennessee, then they have to find beds for those prisoners to go, and where do they end up at? They end up in your county jail. And although the state is actually reimbursing the county per day for that inmate being there, a lot of times it still doesn't cover the actual cost of that inmate being in jail, especially if they have to provide any medical. The state will only pick up medical expenses after 24 hours. In other words, if a state inmate goes to the doctor for a broken arm, broken leg, or some kind of injury like that, then it's up to the county to pay that expense. But if that inmate stays 24 hours in a hospital, then the state picks up the bill. So it can be a burden on our counties, and I know that Tim Claflin, the jail administrator just in Cumberland County, has had issues with dealing with state inmates. So Department of Corrections has been a big issue for me this year, sitting on the Government Operations Committee. We have dealt with this issue all summer long. So, and then tomorrow, Representative Sexton mentioned this. It'll be to a lot of people, it'll be a huge announcement that'll be coming forth out of the governor's office. It'll be made at 11 o'clock. He'll be doing a news conference, and I think based on what we were told today, we think it'll be a really a good thing for higher education for the state of Tennessee. So.
They're even doing glasses now for the inmates at the prisons, doing eye tests and all that, getting them glasses so they can see how to break out.
Yeah, they hired my eye doctor. He's private now.
I know, mine too.
All right. Well, they do dental checkup.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Fuel tax, is it straight across the board, gas, fuel, and the whole nine yards?
They're really wanting a comprehensive plan. And they've talked about indexing it to inflation. They've talked about, and Cameron jump in here at any time, they actually, you know, we've spoken to the governor about our plan. In fact, today, as we were leaving the office, he turned around, he said, "I still like your plan."
So your plan versus that?
I think it's a combination of
It's a
Combination of both.
combination. But right now, you know, our plan is, we're just holding it out separate, you know, just to see. But, you know, if he came to us and wanted to, told us exactly what his comprehensive package was, then, you know, we'd probably talk to him about it. But,
Does your plan, would it be out-of-state companies have to buy a sticker like you see on trucks all the time, to Illinois and all that?
no, that's all been done away with, and that's one of the reasons that we're able to implement this program. It's through, those stickers that you see today is through a organization called International Fuel Tax Association, which all 48 states are a part of in the continental United States, and even the Canadian provinces are part of it now. And so you just go through one, for example, me as a trucking company, we just file with the Tennessee Department of Revenue one time. We get the fuel tax sticker. We fill out one report quarterly, listing all the miles for all the various states that we run in. We send the state of Tennessee one check for the amount of, and then they do a distribution to the various states. And that would be the same process in which trucking companies would do. Kentucky currently has the same program in place, and so it's 4 other states of the nation have done it. I mean, it's a process that would be again just very easy to implement.
So it's been like 20 years since UST fund, is it still pretty solid?
U.S. Transportation Fund.
Underground storage tank.
Now that I am not for sure
It's a
about.
penny a gallon, it goes into that.
I'm assuming it's in good shape because I think there were a lot of issues there in the very beginning, but now I think that
There was, yeah.
yeah, but now I think that fund is solvent, but I can't give you a dollar amount.
Well, I mean, part of the problem too is the prior administration borrowed hundreds of millions of dollars from the gasoline fund to do other things.
Right.
And so, you know, part of our thing is let's repay that money back first, see where we're at. You know, when you talk to the governor and the commissioner, you know, the problem we're having is, as everybody knows, the cars are getting more miles per gallon, but the wear and tear is not going down. And so the nice thing about Paul's bill is it addresses the vehicles that do the most wear and tear, which is the big trucks. So that's the beneficial part of that. You know, as far as, you know, the other things, you know, in the next 15 years, say the average car is getting 50 miles per gallon, you know, the average person's paying, I think, about $180 to $200 a year in gas tax on average if you're driving 15,000 to 20,000 miles a year. You know, what the governor proposes, we don't know, but I would say if he does propose something, I think what it would be is a little bit on regular gas, some on diesel, some type of fee on the high mileage car, the Priuses, the Leaf, who run on electricity and stuff, because it's hard to, you know, how do you tax electricity and that sort of stuff. So I think you'll see some type of a fee on those to match what an average consumer might spend. Maybe a portion of what Paul's bill is, maybe not to that extent, but, you know, another portion of that to where you get to a number to where he's comfortable with being able to maintain and grow what we have. You know, the days of building 5-lane roads all across state Tennessee is over. We can't afford to do that anymore. And when you sit down with the department and the commissioner, they will tell you they have now gone back to every road project that's in the making and do a re-estimate on it. Is it really need 4 or 5 lanes? Or do we need, or can we do 3? Or can we do signals? What can we do to really see what that road needs? It might not need 5. And so, you know, they're trying to reprioritize how they do roads, which is what we like. And as you all do in the city all the time is, first, are they doing it right? 2, is it, are they using the finances the right way and doing it the right way? Or are we still building all these roads that really aren't needed and so forth? So, there's a lot of basic questions you have to get answered before you ever get to the point where you say, well, I can vote for something like that. Because, I think you all elect us to ask those questions and make sure that everything's being done wisely and efficiently. And then we make the best decision that we can after that point. And I think that's what they elect you all to do.
We've been arguing for how many years, we don't need a 5-lane out at the homestead.
One point that Cameron made regarding previous administration took about $280 million out of transportation, and that was during a time that they were needing to balance the budget because TennCare costs had gone up, so they pulled $280 million out of transportation. Actually, he and I talked about doing this, but another senator jumped ahead of us, and they're going to do a bill basically asking for $260 million of the $280 million to come back. The one area that I wanted to make sure of, if we pull that money back out of the surplus that we have currently in additional revenue, was that we give our local governments a portion just like they would have gotten from the $280 million previously. And the Senate sponsor has assured me that that's going to be one of the portions of his bill. So that'll actually help Crossville and Cumberland County because, representing six counties as a state senator, I can promise you that every county I go into, whether it be Putnam, Cumberland, or Bledsoe County, they all have the same issue. They're needing help. They're needing funding with their road departments, and so we want to see if we bring a portion of that and it's able to pass. Then we'd love to see a portion go back to the local governments just like it was originally supposed to have gone anyway.
We might vote for you again if you do that.
I mean, you're the only person to
I'm just considering it.
Yeah.
Can you all shed any light on the discussion of reallotment of sales tax between cities and counties?
Shedding light now. I mean, kind of, what's the issue? What's the percentages or?
Yeah, I think that came up out of Chattanooga.
Yeah. Hamilton County mayor is pushing this thing for reallocating the local, or the state sales tax that comes back. And projections from TML, we end up about $120,000 shortfall. So we're not real excited about that.
Shortfall due to?
Well, the reallocation of that, so we'd end up 120,000 less.
Based on what you should get based on spending?
Well, it's per capita, but
This is state
basically you
share
got
tax.
your pot of money and they're wanting to split it up between the cities and the counties instead of just the cities. And so, just shift it.
Mr. Rutherford, help me make sure that I explain this correctly, but it all stems from Hamilton County and Chattanooga over their school system several years ago. Chattanooga actually ran a school system, is that right? And now it's Hamilton County.
Yeah.
And so the way the original tax proration was done was based on whether or not you ran a school system or not. And now that, am I right? Is that the reason why?
That's some
the
of it,
premise behind why they're really wanting to kind of do something.
That plus they just see all this money because back in, I guess, the late 40s, the legislature gave some of the money to the cities and didn't give anything to the counties because cities were providing all these extra services. And now they want to go back and revisit that.
Yeah, so the counties are running the school systems now. The cities are collecting a portion of the tax, and so the county, the mayor of Hamilton County, he's wanting
that money that was used for schools that.
well, or a
in the-
portion, or
Well,
however the allocation was, because at the time Chattanooga had a school system, I believe.
They had a city and a county school.
Yeah, they had a city and a county.
So the counties want to do reallocation statewide for everybody and not unique to them. That's what you're saying. And you'd rather have it unique to them?
No, they'd rather have it just like it is.
Just leave it alone.
That's what I'm
Just
saying.
yeah, just
Let
leave
them
it
do
alone.
Let them solve their
Oh, yeah.
situation down there, but keep whatever it is.
Yeah,
the same.
they can raise taxes down or do whatever they need to do to get their money.
that's the
Do
one.
they still have city and county
No.
school?
No.
That's why they're wanting to reallocate.
Yeah.
Well,
Can they solve that themselves?
Well, I think Gerald and I think
Can't they do it
Gerald is
themselves?
carrying, I think Gerald's jumped out and he's gonna carry it for the one.
It's a statewide application?
Yeah, so I think that's, of course, TML is, as opposed to it, and of course, the County Commission Association, they're for it, so.
Well, it'll be interesting. I serve on local, so I'm sure it will come.
Oh, yeah, we'll be going through local, but,
TML showed us about 3 different ways that it could go
Yeah.
south
In the past,
for us.
the General Assembly it's very hard to get something passed statewide that's only an issue in one area. It's very, very difficult. So I think it would have a hard time just off the beaten path of trying to solve one situation in one county when there's 95 and make it statewide.
Well, that's the reason they're going for this thing, to reallocate everything across the state, because the 95 counties will be supportive of that. Because they'll end up with more dollars and the cities end up with less dollars.
Right, but the premise is, though, I mean, the thing is, they can paint the picture how they want, but at the end of the day, it's due to one situation. And usually we vent through that as well.
Okay.
And usually send that back to have them work on it themselves. That's usually goes, can't promise it.
Mm. One issue I wanted to bring up, this council, a few months back, we started working on revising our ordinance for beer and alcohol. And if you look at the state statutes on that, it's very convoluted. It's just been chipped away at since Prohibition. There's really never been a big overhaul. And we ran into some problems in revising. Our ordinance was based on older laws, and it changes so often. For example, we had we can regulate beer that's under 5.5%, but if it's 5.6%, or I don't remember the numbers, it's high gravity, we can't
Right.
do anything about it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know if y'all would look at.
But no, the ABC approves a list of distributors and what the beers are. You'll see a lot of stores that sell beer that has like 6% alcohol, but they allow it, and it's up to I think, something to do with the state. So you don't have to literally go everywhere and say, well, our threshold is 5%, you're selling beer at 5.2, because it's already been approved by the distributors.
I mean, when we had the, lack of a better term, axe the beer tax bill, which changed the funding mechanism and how the tax structure was on beer compared to liquor or wine. We tried to raise, part of the discussion was raising that percentage to allow high gravity beers to be sold, because I think by statute now it's only in liquor stores once you get to that point. But I don't disagree. There's lots of things in statute that that are tweaked and changed over the years, and it really creates different problems. I will tell you though, when the speaker was here a couple weeks ago, she talked about how 2-3 years ago she sent back all the researchers back into their codes that they do on committees and really try to clean up some of that code. Now, trying to clean up, just to be honest with you, trying to clean up the beer code would be a severe battle, because what happens down there, you get an amendment thrown on here and this, and it changes everything. And if when I tell you, if you're having issues or something, and we'll be happy to try to assist you any way we can.
Well, that was just one example. Like if we, have a beer permit come through, the statute just on that beer permit, it's 3 pages long on the different things and avenues to do that. So
Well, add in the new grocery store.
Right, right. And then we got the grocery store. And so.
I spoke to Director Bell last year, White County. I mean, we went through on a referendum in White County in November of last year to allow for package stores in unincorporated areas of the county. No one from the State Election Commission told White County that state law says that you can't have a package store in an unincorporated area. And of course that goes back to the 1930s, that statute does. And so they pass a referendum in White County to allow for package stores. Well, guess who's benefiting from it? The city. The city never could pass that, but it passed countywide. So now the city, and of course I carried a bill for White County to do a private act, a local act, to allow for White County passed it in the Senate, but my House sponsor
What, man?
kind of fell short on me on that deal, but anyways, I mean, and so I talked to Director Bell where I was going with that. I said, gosh, some of this stuff needs to be cleared up. Maybe we need to get in there, and he just kind of said, Senator Bailey, I'm telling you, to get in here and clean this thing up, he said, good luck, because he said every special interest group that has anything to do with alcohol, he said they get so nervous when any changes are made to that.
Where you get, the problem is people start inserting stuff, and that's really where you get caught. Something getting inserted, unfortunately, and it didn't really intend to happen what happened.
For example, my bill was for statewide application. The liquor wholesalers were for it. The retailers were against it. So I ended up having to bring it down to the local level. Now, you would think they'd both be for it, but they weren't.
But, the other thing I will tell you, it doesn't affect you all because your charter prevents it, but, every year there's more and more discussion about, it's more of a county governing body issue, which is about county employees serving on county commission. I think your all's charter prohibits that in the city. So, that bill was sent to Tasser last year to study. Not really sure that, they didn't really take a stand, I don't think, one way or the other. But I think that bill's coming back up, and at some point, I think something will emerge from that. Either, it's one or two things have to happen. One is you have, you have county employees that won't be able to serve on county commission anymore, or you let teachers serve on school board, but you can't, I don't think much longer the state's gonna, or the legislature's gonna allow you to do one and do something different to the other. At some point, something's gonna break.
It needs to be fixed.
Right. And so what that is, I don't know. It's kind of like with the elected superintendent bill every year comes back up, which is, do you elect it or do you appoint? And, in the end, the question is, in retrospect, the main issue I have sometimes in Nashville is you have people who jump up and I'll just give you an example, knock Metro